My mother-in-law took $25,000 from my 12-year-old daughter's college fund to remodel her fucking bathroom. And when I confronted her, my wife of 14 years decided to be on her side. Take a moment to let that sink in. For fucking 10 years, I watched my mother-in-law Margaret slowly erode my daughter's self-esteem with her jokes and backhanded compliments. Oh, Lizzie, that drawing is interesting. Maybe one day you'll be as good as your cousin Emma. Or, honey, that dress looks so much better on a different body type. That saccharine smile that never really touched her eyes, like a shark eyeballing a meal. And every single time, my wife Catherine would respond the same way. That's just how Mom is, David. She's not trying to hurt his feelings. It's how our family loves. Love. What a fucking joke. I grew up in foster care. 6 different houses by the time I was 18. Some, from mediocre, most, to nightmarish, too. I know what love isn't. And whatever Margaret was dishing out along with her designer handbags and her country club membership, damn, sure wasn't love. But I kept my mouth shut. For Catherine. For family peace. For Lizzie. That was my first mistake. I remember the moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday. Another run-of-the-mill Tuesday. I was grading papers in my office when my bank called. Something about strange activity on Lizzie's college fund account. What unusual activity? I asked and was already reaching for my laptop. A few large withdrawals in the last 8 months, the account manager said, totaling around $25,000. My blood went cold. That's impossible. I haven't taken any out. The transactions were made against your signature, Professor Miller. Or at least, what looks like your signature. I opened the account online as I spoke on the phone. They were there. 6 withdrawals ranged from $3,000 to $5,000. Summers we'd been saving up since Lizzie was born. Money for her future. How about if you send me the authorization documents? My voice sounded weird, far away. 20 minutes later, I was staring at my fake signature. Except it wasn't exactly my signature. It was close, damn close, but the D had that little curl that Catherine was always telling me I missed. Catherine, my wife of 14 years, had signed my name. But why? We weren't in financial crisis. I had a good salary at Boston University, and Catherine's interior design business was flourishing. We lived well in our Cambridge house, went on nice vacations, never worried about bills. I called Catherine. Straight to voicemail. Oh wait, she was out to lunch with her mother. Of course she was. Something prompted me to look at our joint account. Nothing unusual there. Then our savings. Nothing missing. Credit cards? All normal. It was only Lizzie's college fund. I leaned back in my chair, my papers forgotten. Why would Catherine steal money from our daughter's future? And where did it go? By the time she got home that evening, I tracked the money. Each withdrawal had been instantly succeeded by a deposit of the precise quantity into a Bank of America account. An account I never recognized. How was lunch? I asked, my voice neutral. Fine. Mom's getting the guest bathroom remodeled. Some Italian marble that she fell in love with, Catherine said, kicking off her shoes. Sounds expensive. You know, Mom. Nothing but the best. She kissed my cheek. What's for dinner? Italian marble, I said. That's what the $25,000 out of Lizzie's college fund went to, isn't it? Your mom's bathroom renovation. Her face drained of color. It was answer enough. David, I can explain, please do. Tell me about how you forged my signature so you could steal from our daughter. I didn't steal. Mom's in need of help, and she's going to pay it back. With interest. When? With what money? Your mother's never worked a day and spends your father's inheritance like it's monopoly money. That's not fair. She has had some surprise expenses like Italian marble. Catherine's face hardened. Mom was a co-signer on the loan for my startup. I owe her. So you repay her with our daughter's education fund? Without even talking to me? You wouldn't understand. I knew that. You have always hated my family. I laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. For the last decade, I've had to sit back and allowed your mother to disparage our child while you provided excuse after excuse. That's not resentment, Catherine. That's patience. And mine just ran out. You're overreacting. It's just money. We'll put it back. It's not only about the money. My voice had gone quiet. Dangerous. It's not about what this is, it's about what this represents. You and your mother violated the trust our daughter had. You betrayed mine. David, I want the money back in Lizzie's account by the end of the month. All of it. And we need to discuss your mother's role in our lives moving forward. Catherine wore that stubborn expression I had seen before whenever anyone criticized her mother. Mom is family. That's non-negotiable. I could have fought harder back then. Should have seen what was coming. But 14 years of marriage had taught me which battles to choose. This was another mistake. 3 weeks later came Lizzie's 12th birthday. We had parties at our house, Catherine's family, a few of Lizzie's friends, some of the neighbors. I was saving for after the party. Lizzie was begging for a laptop. Catherine had hired a professional photographer, ordered a more elaborate cake than I ever had, and kitchen decorations probably worth more than my first car. Margaret was last to arrive, making her entrance just like the queen she fancied herself. She gave me an air kiss, her perfume suffocating. David, darling, those patches on your knees are so real. Going for that struggled academic look? Her smile was razor sharp. Good to see you as well, Margaret. It happened when Lizzie was opening presents. This was how she came to open the gift from Margaret. A large box exquisitely wrapped in silver paper, a huge bow atop. Inside was a designer handbag. A Chanel. Even I knew they were worth thousands. Grandma, is this real? Lizzie's eyes were wide. Margaret laughed. Of course not, sweetie. It's just a loan for today, so you could get some nice shots with it. I want it back before I go. The room went silent. Lizzie's smile froze and crumbled. Oh, she whispered. Now don't sulk, Margaret said. Not that it's a $10,000 bag. Did you really think I would give that to some little kid who would probably destroy it? Something inside me snapped. Cleanly. Definitively. Like a bone breaking. Well, actually, Lizzie, I have one more present for you. I got up from my office and came back with the wrapped-up laptop. This is yours to keep. Forever. When Lizzie opened the card, her grin was radiance. Margaret's face darkened. Well, that has to be practical, she replied. And not that I know that a child her age needs such expensive electronics. She needs it more than she needs a bathroom renovation, I said cheerfully. Catherine gave me a warning look. I ignored it. What's it to mean? Margaret asked. It means I know where Lizzie's college fund went. $25,000 for Italian marble. Was it worth it, Margaret? Was it worth robbing your granddaughter's future? The party went dead silent. Catherine was shaking her head, frantically. Too late. How dare you accuse me? I've looked at the bank records, Margaret. Catherine signed my name to move the money into your account. Margaret's face switched from outrage to calculation in a split second. Catherine was just doing family a favor. Something you wouldn't know about, with your history. My background. The foster kid. The outsider. Ever my disqualifier in her mind. Mom, don't, Catherine began. No, let's be honest for once, I said. You have been eroding your granddaughter's confidence for the last 12 years now with your backhanded compliments and jokes, Margaret. You've spent a decade conditioning your daughter into thinking that this isn't atypical. And now you've stolen money saved specifically for Lizzie's education. David, stop it. Catherine hissed. It was a loan, Margaret said imperiously. When will you pay it back? With what? That's between Catherine and I. I looked at the frozen party guests. Deeply sorry for the drama, but I think the party's over, Mr. McCarthy said. Lizzie, sweetheart, why don't you take your friends out to the backyard for a little while? After Lizzie and the other children filed out, most of the grown-ups made sad excuses and left. Just Margaret, Catherine, and Catherine's brother Chris were left. How dare you, Catherine gasped, shaking with rage. To do that to my mother. To humiliate her like that. And you had no business stealing from our daughter. It was a loan. A loan involves two parties having to agree on the funds responsible. You forged my signature, Catherine. That's fraud. Are you threatening me? Margaret stepped forward. I'm stating facts. The money goes back in Lizzie's account or I press charges. Chris finally spoke up. Come on, David. We're family. We can work this out. Family doesn't take from kids, Chris. Family doesn't shame a 12-year-old girl at her birthday party. Family doesn't forge signatures. You holier-than-thou prick, Margaret said. Catherine, we're leaving. Call me when he calms down. She and Catherine both left. She came back hours later, with red, puffy eyes. Why would you embarrass me like that? Were her first words. How are you going to steal from our daughter? I told you, it's a loan. Mom needed help. For luxury renovations that they didn't need? Meanwhile, stealing from Lizzie's future? You don't get family obligation. No, Catherine. You are oblivious to parental responsibility. We owe our first duty to Lizzie. She shook her head. Mom says you're overreacting because of your childhood issues. That you're envious of real family relationships. A cold fear sank in my stomach. Is that what you believe? She didn't answer directly. Mom thinks there's an amount of money that she has to give back. She will begin making payments next month. All of it. Immediately. You can't, and you know it. She's already spent it. Then she is able to file for a home equity loan. Sell some jewelry. I don't care how she gets it, but that money goes back in Lizzie's account. Or what? You're going to press charges against your own wife? The mother of your child? The threat was implicit. If I argued this, I was the villain ruining our family. I should have known then what I was up against. But I still had the hope that eventually Catherine would come to see reason. My final mistake. The following 2 months became a war of attrition. Lizzie was no longer receiving money in her account. Catherine saw her mother more, taking Lizzie along as she often did, despite my protests. Margaret played the victim like a pro, telling everyone who would listen what an unreasonable person I was being over a simple family loan. I reached out to a lawyer, Jonathan Pierce, a colleague at the university's law school. His assessment was blunt. You have sufficient for a criminal case, but do you really want to send your wife to jail? And civilly, you're suing yourself because you're married and have shared assets. What about Margaret? Trickier, but possible. But if Catherine testifies that it was an agreed-upon loan? I nodded. And divorce? Jonathan's eyes softened. Is that where they're taking this? I don't know. But above our daughter's well-being, Catherine has looked to her mother. Over and over again. Then document everything. And I mean everything. I took his advice. Then I photographed the fraudulent signatures, the bank transfers, the gift at Lizzie's party, the cycles of emotional abuse, the growing antagonism brewing here at home. It didn't take long for the next revelation. One afternoon, while going through our mail, I came across a credit card statement for an account I didn't recognize in my name. A quick call confirmed that it opened 6 months ago. The address was Margaret's. Catherine and Margaret were the authorized users. The balance was almost $30,000. I confronted Catherine that night. She didn't even attempt to deny it. It was necessary for the business, she replied defiantly. What business? The other thing is, Mom and I are opening an interior design showroom together. I stared at her. With stolen money. One with stolen credit cards in my name. It's not stealing as long as we give it back from the profits. And if there are no profits? If the business goes bust, like Margaret's last 3 businesses? So what happens to my credit after that? To our financial stability? It won't fail. The risk is that Catherine, your mother, has never been able to run anything in her life. She burned your father's money. Now she is burning ours. You don't believe in me. Her voice was cold. You never believed in my dreams. I paid for your design school. I transformed the garage into your studio. I've supported every legitimate business decision you've made. This isn't about your dreams. This is about your mom using you to get to her money. I want you to leave. Catherine's face was stone. I need time to think. This is my house too. Just go. Stay with a friend. Give me space. I went. Another mistake. When I came back 3 days later, the locks had been changed and Catherine wasn't picking up her phone. My attorney helped me get back into my own home, but by that time, Catherine had moved in with Margaret and took Lizzie with her. The war had escalated. The ensuing months were a blur of legal motions, court appearances, and heartbreak. Catherine cited irreconcilable differences and emotional abandonment in her divorce filing. She wanted the full custody of Lizzie, our house, and half my pension, which I then learned had been her mother's nefarious plan from the very start. Emails between Catherine and Margaret discussing how to access my retirement accounts were unearthed during the divorce proceedings. I intend to take my pension to pay for their business. Conversations about what they could legally extract from me, maximize. Yet they hadn't only stolen from Lizzie's college fund. They were going to take everything. The judge was unimpressed, particularly after he found out about the fake credit card. The balance swung in favor of Catherine's custody claim. Her credibility crumbled. But Margaret refused to give up, guiding Catherine through more brazen strategies. They claimed I was abusive, controlling, unstable. The allegations unraveled under scrutiny, but the damage to my reputation was done. My colleagues viewed me in a different light. Parents at Lizzie's school whispered. Our savior was the court-appointed psychologist, Dr. Susan Reed, who would expose the manipulation and put her recommendations into a report stating that what was happening to Lizzie was wrong and that it needed to be stopped. Amid it all, Lizzie was caught in the middle. Catherine played her like a pawn, corrupting her mind. Margaret was still at it with undermining gifts and backhanded compliments, now topped with the extra dollop of, your father despises you. Half a year in, it was the turning point. While I had Lizzie for a supervised visitation, she asked me a question that broke my heart. Dad, don't you love me enough to let Mom and me be with Grandma and be happy? I put down the board game we had been playing. Lizzie, you are my everything in this world. Why do you think I don't want you to be happy? Grandma says you're punishing me because you're mad at Mom. If you were fighting for me, you would let me live with them and stop trying. I took a deep breath. In your class, Lizzie, do you remember Jeremy took your science project and wrote his name on it? She nodded. And the teacher thought that it was his work until you said otherwise? Yeah. How did that make you feel? She thought for a moment. Angry and sad that he was taking something precious from me. That's what Grandma did to you. She stole money set aside for your college education, of funds to build your future. She took it away, unasked, for something she wanted in its place. Lizzie's eyes widened. My college fund, the one you and Mom looked at on the computer? Yes. And when I said that was wrong, instead of giving the money back, Mom and Grandma got mad at me for saying anything. Just as Jeremy would get angry at you when you told the truth. I could see her processing this, making connections between dots. Is that why you and Mom are splitting up? Because of my money. It's more complicated than that, dear. But it revealed an important part of how your mother and grandmother view our family. Or about what's right and wrong. Does Mom know? About the money? I hesitated. Yes. She helped Grandma take it. Lizzie remained silent for a long time. Then, I want to live with you, Dad. 2 weeks later, she repeated the same to Dr. Reed and the judge. Catherine was furious. Margaret was apocalyptic. But in light of the financial fraud evidence, Lizzie's clear preference, and Dr. Reed's recommendation, the court awarded me primary custody. It should have been a victory. Rather, it had an air of dwarf survivorship. The divorce became final a year after that fateful birthday party. I retained the house and primary custody. Catherine received visitation and a fair settlement. The fraudulent credit card was closed, the debt split. The college fund was still empty, but at least no further damage could be done. In our social circle, Margaret created a smear campaign against me. I was controlling, abusive, vindictive, taking a mother away from her child out of spite. Some believed her. Others saw through the lies. I lost friends I thought were solid. Gained unexpected allies. Through it all, Jonathan was by my side. First as a lawyer, then as a friend, and eventually as something more. Our long hours together during the case had created a bond that slowly evolved into a deeper relationship. Dr. Reed helped Lizzie unpack her emotions surrounding her mother's betrayal and her grandmother's manipulation. Slowly, we rebuilt. Catherine's visitations grew more erratic. At times she would call off at the last moment. At times she would still bring Margaret, despite court orders forbidding it. Lizzie began requesting not to attend these parties at all. The interior design showroom launched with much ado, then shuttered 8 months later. Bankruptcy followed. Margaret was in a long-term relationship with Catherine. Then came the phone call. Margaret claimed she was ill. Cancer. Terminal. Catherine wanted Lizzie to be able to get to know her grandmother before it was too late. Wanted us to put aside our differences for family. Family. That word again. I took it to Lizzie, who is now 14. Old enough to understand. Old enough to decide. Do you want to go see your grandmother? She considered it, her expression more serious than her years. Will she apologize? For stealing my money and saying mean things? I don't think so, sweetie. Then no, I don't want to see her. Come winter, we met them again at a shopping mall. There was Margaret, perfectly healthy, shopping bags in hand. No signs of terminal illness. As I suspected, her cancer had been just another manipulation tactic that didn't work. What I noticed most was Lizzie's reaction. Or rather, lack of reaction. She smiled politely, then returned to the bookstore display we were looking at. She wasn't angry, wasn't hurt. She just didn't care anymore. That night, after Lizzie had gone to bed, I came across an old album Catherine had left behind. Pictures of our wedding. Catherine's parents beaming. My side, empty save for a couple of friends. I had spent my life looking for family, thinking I had discovered it with Catherine. Intent on providing Lizzie with what I had never had, stability, unconditional love, a place to belong. Instead, I'd replicated the same toxic dynamics that I'd experienced in foster care, only now dressed up in designer clothes and country club membership. But as I finished listening to the album, I remembered something. Family is not defined by blood or pieces of paper. It's defined by respect, by boundaries, by a love that edifies instead of destroys. Lizzie and I were a family, small but real. And as I poured myself that whiskey in my study, I finally realized that the severing of Catherine and Margaret was not a loss, but a survival. It was protection. For both of us. The masks had fallen. The truth was ugly, and yet it was honest. In that honesty, we could start to heal. Jonathan texted, checking in like he did most nights now. Dr. Reed had sent her resources for helping Lizzie process the impending anniversary of that fateful birthday party. We had people who truly cared. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. I placed my glass down and checked on my daughter, who was sleeping. Standing in her doorway, watching her serene face, I felt an emotion I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the pathetic wish of someone hoping to save a bad situation, but the slow, unwavering hope of another who finally gave up on breathing underwater and found the surface instead. Yesterday, I went into Lizzie's room to find her on the floor surrounded by old photos. Photos of her mother, of her grandmother, family meals before everything shattered. Her eyes were puffy and bloodshot. I received a birthday card from Mom, she said, voice empty. She wants me to come stay with her and Grandma. Says they miss me. My blood ran cold. What did you tell her? Nothing yet. She raised her gaze to mine, something shifting behind her eyes. She said you have lied to me, that there was never any college fund, that you fabricated everything to turn me against them. Lizzie, you know that's not. I know, she cut me off. I read the court documents. I know what they did. I sat next to her, relief flooding through me. Then why are you upset? She handed me her phone. On screen was a social media post from Catherine's account. A family photo. Catherine, Margaret, and a girl who looks about Lizzie's age. The girl, Maddie, was the daughter of one of Catherine's interior design clients. Over the past 3 months, Catherine had been mentoring her, bringing her into their fold as a replacement for Lizzie. The photo was captioned, "So blessed to have my perfect daughter Maddie in my life. Some losses are, in fact, gains in disguise." They replaced me, Lizzie whispered. Mom has a new daughter. I perused through the profile. Dozens more of Catherine with this girl, at restaurants, on vacation, at what appeared to be school events. All posted in the span of about 3 months. Who is she? I asked. Mom's interior design client's daughter. She's been mentoring her. Lizzie's voice cracked. They're happy, aren't they? Before I even got a chance to respond, my phone vibrated. A text from my lawyer. Emergency. Call me now. The next 20 minutes shattered what little remained of our world. The mentoring was a strategic move. Margaret had hired a private investigator who discovered something I had buried decades ago. A juvenile arrest record that ought to have been sealed. Now they were using it, along with trumped-up evidence from this new girl, to apply for emergency custody. The allegations were horrifying. Unthinkable. The kind no parent should ever have to face, true or not. Dad, Lizzie was in the doorway when I hung up, hands trembling. What's wrong? I couldn't tell her. Couldn't form the words. But I didn't need to. My phone vibrated once more, messages pouring in from parents of Lizzie's friends. The allegations were already circulating. Our life imploded within hours. Police at the door. Social services. The nightmare playing out with surgical precision. They planned this. All of it. The birthday card. The new daughter. The investigation. They weren't able to come out on top the right way, so they poisoned the well. Scorched earth. From a car parked across the street, Margaret watched as they took Lizzie temporarily, pending investigation. We locked eyes through the window. She gave that shark smile, held her hand up, and waved. I thought I'd won. I thought we were free. I was wrong.